We usually picture alcohol production as a pristine, romantic process. Golden fields of barley blowing in the wind, sun-drenched vineyards, oak barrels aging quietly in a cellar. But if you look past the marketing, the history of brewing is filled with dark, bizarre, and often deeply unsettling experiments. We're talking about brewers dropping severed, amputated human toes into whiskey glasses, distillers submerging highly venomous reptiles in rice wine, and high-end mixologists crafting luxury cocktails that actually triggered a criminal police raid. Making alcohol is simple. You only need two biological ingredients, sugar and yeast. The yeast eats the sugar and it excretes ethanol. That's the entire chemical baseline. So adding human saliva, dangerous animals, or insect acid into the vat is an active, deliberate choice. To understand why humans mix these taboo ingredients into their drinks, we have to look closely at the precise motivations that drive us to bypass our own innate disgust mechanisms. The bizarre history of the glass actually maps our timeline of functional survival, deep scientific obsession, and occasionally pure criminal hubris. Before modern microbiology, brewers had to rely on the only biological tools they had lying around. Take traditional drinks like Chicha from the Andes or Tella from Ethiopia. To start the brewing process, women chew raw grains, like corn or sorghum, and spit the mash directly into the fermentation vat. It sounds shocking, but it's a precise chemical hack. Raw grain is packed with starches, but yeast can't ferment starch. Human saliva contains an enzyme called amylase. When the brewer chews the grain, the amylase acts as a biological catalyst. It breaks down those massive starch chains into simple, fermentable sugars, so the yeast can finally get to work. In East Asia, distillers took a different approach, treating high-proof alcohol as an industrial solvent. They submerged highly venomous snakes, like cobras, into rice wine to extract the animal's supposed medicinal properties. The ethanol neutralizes the venom, making the drink safe, while pulling out compounds historically believed to boost vitality. The most extreme application of this medical philosophy is baby mice wine. Brewers take mice that are only 3 days old, drop them into rice wine, and leave them to age for a full year. In traditional Chinese and Korean medicine, this resulting liquid is prescribed as a potent cure for severe liver diseases and asthma. In the ancient world, crossing the boundary of pure disgust made sense. It was justified as a vital technology for human health and survival. Today, we don't need to chew grain or ferment mice to survive. Yet, modern distillers are using ingredients that are arguably even stranger, driven entirely by the scientific pursuit of the perfect, novel flavor. A collaboration between a Nordic food lab and a Cambridge distillery resulted in anti-gin. Each bottle costs hundreds of dollars and contains the extract of roughly 6,000 Formica rufa, a specific species of redwood ant. When threatened, this ant sprays a defensive chemical weapon called formic acid. During vacuum distillation, that acid reacts with the alcohol to create esters. The result is a gin with a vivid citrus aroma, without a single drop of actual citrus fruit. Over in South Africa, the creators of Inlovu gin took a different route. They source their primary botanical ingredient directly from the fresh dung of wild African elephants. Out in the wild, an elephant spends its day foraging the absolute best, most diverse plant life across the African savanna. But their digestive system is incredibly inefficient. They only process about 30% of what they eat. The dung they leave behind is essentially a perfectly curated, enzyme-washed botanical blend, ready to be sterilized, dried, and distilled. But the pursuit of extreme ingredients has a dark side. Sometimes the goal isn't science or flavor, it's shock value. In Dawson City, up in the Canadian Yukon, a local frontier bar serves something called the sour toe cocktail. The recipe is simple: a shot of whiskey and a real, mummified human toe that was amputated after severe frostbite. The patron pays their money, takes the shot, and the toe has to physically touch their lips. It's the ultimate low-brow viral stunt. You might expect that kind of gross-out gimmick in a remote frontier town, but you wouldn't expect it in London's Nightjar, heavily awarded as one of the best cocktail bars in the world. In 2012, Nightjar put a drink called the Moby Dick on their menu. The bartenders wanted to give a Scotch whiskey an authentic, smoky oceanic flavor profile. To get it, they infused the alcohol with a dried piece of actual minke whale skin. The pursuit of that perfect oceanic flavor ended abruptly. Acting on a tip from animal protection groups, the London police raided the bar and seized the whale-infused bottle. The problem was a strict international treaty called CITES, which explicitly bans the commercial trade of products from endangered species. By selling that infusion as a commercial product, the bar committed a federal-level wildlife crime inside a cocktail glass. When the relentless hunt for an exotic flavor ignores ecological morality and international law, innovation mutates into a tasteless crime. Every bottle on this timeline acts as a mirror, reflecting the extremes of human ambition, desperation, and occasional madness. From chewing raw grain for ancient survival, to extracting insect acid in a high-tech lab, to the criminal hubris of breaking wildlife laws for a garnish, the boundary separating a healing tradition, a culinary breakthrough, and an ecological crime is razor thin. It is defined entirely by the motivation of the person pouring the drink. So where do you draw your personal biological red line? Let me know in the comments below. Would you try the amp gin, the chewed corn beer,